I do have a very special guest, Amanda Lieu. So she is going to be presenting to everyone today on how to dress for an interview, specifically a virtual interview, because that is the way of the world now. So we only have an hour, so I don't want to eat up any more time. So I will pass it over to Amanda to introduce and we'll get started.
Thanks, Cassie. I'm very excited to be here today. My name is Amanda. I'm one of the Dress for Success volunteer stylists, and I have been for the past 3 years. In my professional career, I've been in the fashion industry for the past 15 years. The last 5, I've been working with Attire of Sweden, which is a Swedish Stockholm-based fashion house, and I've been managing the retail branch of our business. I also had the pleasure of launching a new business this past year in 2020. Great timing. I launched a menswear online store called Go Tango, and it's really focused on styling and hyper-personalization. So you can say that styling's always been part of what I do, and I'm really thrilled to be able to present this with you guys today. And we'll be talking about how to dress for the virtual interview. I'm just confirming that everybody can see the slides. Perfect. Fantastic. So we're going to go over today's agenda. First and foremost, we'll talk about finding confidence through dress, finding suitable apparel for different women in different industries. We'll look at pro tips for building a wardrobe and explore places to shop on different budgets. Last but not least, we'll be doing an interactive Q&A at the very end. I'll also be stopping for time for questions during the session. That way, if you have questions, you don't have to hold on to them until the end. So at the very beginning here, I think it's fitting that we highlight Edith Head. Edith Head was the costume designer. She actually won 8 Oscars for her in the time of her career. She had said, you can have anything you want in life if you dress for it. She later went on to author a book called How to Dress for Success. So it seems perfectly fitting. And this statement could not be more true. So first and foremost, we start with you. We start with the person getting dressed. Our number one misconception right now in the fashion industry is that expensive clothing is automatically better clothing. Well, it's true that sometimes expensive clothing can be more expensive, and that could be better fabrication or better workmanship. It doesn't automatically reduce inexpensive clothing as bad quality. In fact, sometimes inexpensive clothing and expensive clothing have the same quality, and what the person's paying for is the label itself. Now, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do or wrong thing to do. The takeaway here is that anybody can look and feel in the right clothing on any budget. So if you imagine your style icons, maybe that style icon is Meghan Markle or Audrey Hepburn or Scarlett Johansson. You'll always notice celebrities when they don the red carpet or they have an important event, they often ditch the flashy logos and replace it with something that is timeless and elegant, often in a single color. And if you hear some of the comments made on the outfits themselves, we're talking about not just the designer, but the silhouette and the shape. So the best dressed people seem to have the right shapes for their bodies. And on the opposite side of the coin, the worst dress or the worst outfits seem to be the wrong shape. So when we apply that to how we dress for a virtual interview, we have a couple of takeaways. So the 4 keys here, the very first one, keep your outfit simple. If you keep your outfit simple, it will be timeless and elegant. If you keep your outfit simple and modern, the outfit that you wear for your interview today should be able to be the same outfit that you'd want to wear for the interview for the promotion a year or 2 down the road. Our tip number 2, choose solid color. There's a place for patterns, and it's not to say that nobody can wear a pattern during an interview, but there's a very famous TED Talk by Barry Schwartz, who authored the book, The Paradox of Choice. Essentially, humans like choices. It's part of what makes us special. But we really cap that off at 4 to 5 options, because the data shows when we have more, we seem to be overwhelmed. And nobody's going to want to be overwhelmed before an interview. So keeping it simple with solid colors, ones that match each other, is the key here. Secret number 3, find the right shapes for your body type. That's going to be different based on different bodies and different preferences. There's no one right answer, which is great. And then step number 4, comfort. If you're not comfortable in what you wear, it always shows. What you end up doing is you fidget, and as you start to move and adjust your clothing, you start to find that it chips away at how good you feel. Now, we all know that smiles are contagious, but what's also contagious is your confidence. When you're confident in yourself and you project that, the person who's interviewing you will build confidence in you. So after you get ready for you and keep those basics in mind, now we have a new norm to deal with as well. Of course, none of us planned for COVID-19, which means none of us planned that our interviews would be virtual. More importantly, we have a new definition of what business attire means. Now, the new workplace is largely virtual, which means the new business attire in a lot of industries are sweatpants and sweatshirts. Now, anything outside of that would be dressing up. It's important to remember that dressing up is still key for the interview, because your employer still wants to know what your best looks like for when you have to represent the company. And the casual dress code doesn't kick in until you get the job. So make sure that if you fall into a category where, whether it's law, medicine, or you're interviewing for a top executive position, you're going back to the basics and wearing a full pant or skirt suit. On the formal side, you can also do a formal dress and a complementary blazer. Or on the more casual side, most experts will agree that if you find a really good blazer, you can pair that back to anything from a dress right up to a plain t-shirt that you're going to wear with a more casual pant or skirt. So if you have any doubts in your choices, choose to overdress rather than underdress. In the event that you're invited to come back for a second interview and you're noticing that everybody that's interviewing you is dressed very casually, or you've been invited to dress more casually or invited to even wear a t-shirt, be cognizant of that choice. Read between the lines. So that might mean that you're wearing your more dress up t-shirt. It's got a flattering neckline, you have some embellishments on it, and you're not going to choose a t-shirt maybe you slept in or has some coffee from the morning. Really try to put your best foot forward for that first or second interview. It'll at least invite that second interview. So before I flip on to the next page, do we have any questions so far?
We do not have any questions yet in the chat, but everyone feel free to put questions in as they come, so you don't have to sit there and remember them until we get to asking questions. But for right now, we can, I guess, keep going.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we just talked about all the different tips and tricks that apply for every woman. Then we come into the space where, well, all women are different shapes and different sizes. So how do we dress right for your body type? Through years and years of just studying women and dressing women, one of the things that we learn quickly is that you can typically fall into one of the 5 buckets for the 5 different bodies. We have on the left-hand side here, the rectangle, starting from the left-hand side, the rectangle, the inverted triangle, the hourglass, the pear shape, and the apple. So if you can take a moment, if you can take a moment to look at the body and see which one of those apply to you, we'll go into each one of these body types and give tips and tricks on what makes the best outfit for you. Starting with the rectangle is very straight from the shoulder all the way through the hips. So for a body that's really straight, Starting with the blazer, I would opt for a double-breasted, oversized look, or a single-breasted that has a low button stance for some balance. So the example here on the photo, this is a double-breasted blazer with a low button stance. The button stance is where the first button of the blazer meets. So a high button stance would meet closer to the chest. A lower button stance will meet closer to the belly button. A low button stance really does kick in so that we can accentuate a smaller waistline. If you are going on the more casual side and you're not wearing a blazer, then opt for a flowy dress or a blouse and style top that adds some definition. The main key is to find garments that add some shape. The inverted triangle, which is a upside down triangle, will see a larger shoulder coming into a very narrow waist and narrow hips. So for this body type, we would either go for a short blazer or one that is longer than the hip. So nothing in between there. You'll see in the image that this is a peplum style blazer. What that means is it defines the waistline and it kicks out in a very exaggerated way. The peplum is a key for this body type. So even if it's not in the blazer, look for a peplum style skirt or pleated pant for some balance. Now, if I haven't said this already, wearing pants is important. We've all seen interviews, we've all seen clips that are shared online of famous news reporters that seemingly don't wear any pants and they move and you get easily distracted. Well, this is your interview. Your interview is going to be 30 minutes to an hour. So take the time, find right fitting bottoms, because in the event that you have to get up, really important that you have pants on. If you're opting for a dress or a top, then try something with a high neckline that will help elongate the torso. Okay, our hourglass figure. Our hourglass is somebody who would be like an hourglass, bigger through the bust, small through the waist, and larger through the hip. So for this body type, we would find a blazer with a button stance that hits the smallest part of us. So that low button stance around the waist is key. For a casual or dressy look, choosing a turtleneck top or dress will be both conservative and flattering. V-necks will also work, but tend to be a little bit more revealing for this body type. So depending on the industry or the company, it may be more beneficial to choose a turtleneck, mock neck, or a crew neck, something that comes up top and elongates the torso. For bottoms, a high-waisted pant or skirt should typically always work. For our pear-shaped body, which is the opposite of the inverted triangle, we'll see the widest part of us through our hips. So here we would choose a waist or a hip length fitted blazer or a long blazer that is oversized. Again, the blazer is not an essential piece of the wardrobe, but as you can see in this image, our model's wearing a camisole, but just a simple necklace and a fitted blazer makes her outfit pop. On the topic of accessories, choose things that are not going to be distracting. So if you have a necklace, a simple pendant, if you wear bracelets, you don't want bangles, because anything that's going to be noisy over the course of your interview will be distracting, and you don't want that. So pick really simple pieces. It could be stud earrings instead of anything that's dangly. Again, you don't want the earrings caught in your hair. Going back to the pear-shaped body, over here, we would opt for tops and dresses that have an exaggerated neckline or sleeves that are more exaggerated, like a dolman sleeve. This way, we balance the body out. On the lower end, choosing A-line skirts or a wide-legged pant that's full length will offer a more balanced look as well. And last but not least, we have our apple. The apple body type, which is, if you can imagine a Macintosh apple, we're narrow through the shoulders, we come up a little bit wider at the bust and at the waist, and we come in for the hips. For this body type, choose a blazer that has a dramatic sweep. So you'll notice in this blazer here on the model, the bottom of the blazer where it kicks out dramatically, it gives the illusion of a wider hip and that way it balances the body out and it brings in the waist. For tops and dresses, you're going to find items that define the waistline. So maybe an empire waist or a belted look for dresses would be great. Or alternatively, find lots of volume for the sleeves. This is one body type where I'm also going to recommend a striped pant. So vertical lines in a nice straight leg or wide leg pant will also help tone out the body here. So hopefully, as we've gone through these different body types, you've been able to identify with one and have some tips and tricks there. Do we have any questions so far?
We have 2 questions so far.
Okay.
Cindy says that she has a lot of clothes, but is asking how many years, like how often, I guess, should you change your style?
Well, style's very personal. So it doesn't, your style can evolve, but you don't necessarily change it over the seasons and over the years. Having a lot of clothes is a great place to start, actually. But here's where you're going to start to find things that are super simple and easy to wear for interviews and make those your go-to pieces, even if you own a lot of clothing. So an example would be, let's say you have 2 blazers that are your go-to blazers, then find 2 tops that match those blazers out of what you own and put those on high rotation for your interviews, because that way you know that you have everything figured out, everything's easy before the interview, and all you have to think about is how to present the answers to your questions as opposed to what you're going to wear. In terms of what style makes the most sense, I go back to find the items that best work with your body type, because fit is really important in what you choose to wear, as opposed to what is the latest style, the hottest trend. Choose things that, again, if you're an apple body type here, if you have more tops that are empire waistlines, choose those ones. If you have more that are the blouse and style super flowy, if you understand that maybe that's not as flattering for your body type, then opt to wear those less often or for different occasions that are not the interview. And did that help?
Yes. Cindy is not sure her body type. So she says that she thinks she's a pear, which I was going to write back, just letting her know that pear is a little bit wider in the hips, whereas you're a little bit smaller in the bust and shoulders.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Cindy, let us know if that answers your question. We can move on. The next question comes from Karen, saying that sometimes having a laptop right in front of a window may not be the best lighting for a virtual interview. Where should we have the laptop for best lighting?
Something that's very popular right now is a virtual background. So let's say in my house, for example, let's say if my best lighting is in my bathroom, that I may set up to be in front of a blank wall. I won't necessarily direct the camera to my, I won't direct the camera to the toilet or the bathtub, but I would look for the cleanest background. And I might choose a virtual background that is also clean, or an office setting. Zoom allows for that. Lots of platforms allow for that. If that's not an option, anything that's clean and most importantly doesn't compete with what you chose to wear that day would be essential. So if my background right now is gray, then I'm not going to wear a gray blazer or shirt. I'm going to opt for navy. I'm going to get some pop on. Or I would choose anything that, again, super clean, doesn't compete. I happen to have blinds behind me, but that could also be a wall in one of your other rooms.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, she says thank you. Another question comes from Monica. Are blazers still in style? I work in digital content creation, so not sure if it looks old-fashioned for that industry. And then also, is it okay to wear more casual bottoms like dark jeans with blazers?
So jeans is one of those things that it's going to be highly dependent on the industry. So in digital content or digital marketing, it's often and absolutely acceptable. But in something like accounting or super conservative like law, it may not be. So in this case, I would say the jeans are appropriate. As for blazers, blazers go out of style in fashion, but they don't necessarily go out of style in the workplace, especially if we have to dress up. So if you think about pre-COVID days, imagine that you may have gone into work in jeans and a t-shirt and a pair of sneakers. That might be a common outfit. If somebody says a client's coming, there is no tool as essential as a blazer that you can just throw on and it instantly turns an outfit that would otherwise be very casual into something that's at least smart casual. I would avoid looking for suit blazers. So that's the key. You're going to find instead of going for a suit blazer, which is oftentimes hip length, fitted, and a solid wool twill, you would choose something like a knit. It could even be jersey or flannel. I happen to be wearing a twill blazer, but it's also, I'm wearing very much a casual blazer that's double-breasted. I can't see if you guys can see me, but it's always going to be appropriate and it's always going to be essential. So it's okay to invest in blazers. They're not going anywhere.
Okay. And then our last question, there's two questions, but I'm going to save the one because it's asking about how do we get clothing during this time of COVID, and we're going to be talking about online shopping next, so I'm going to leave that one. But the next one is Anissa is not a very tall person. Is it okay to fold the sleeves if you're wearing a suit for an interview? Like if the sleeves are a bit too long, I guess cuffing them. I think that's what she means.
Yes, absolutely. It's actually one of the tips that we're about to go into. But of course, when we want to buy a blazer, especially when it's online, we hope that it comes in, it fits, but more often than not, sleeves are long and the tailor may not be opened right now. It's very appropriate to cut the sleeve, but you want to make sure that it looks intentional. So right now, if I cuff my sleeve and it comes to here, it may not look like I intended to style it this way. It looks like my sleeve was too long. However, if I give it one more fold, sorry, I have a bad wrist injury that I'm getting over. But essentially, I give it one more fold and I have a 3/4 length sleeve. This now looks intentional. This is how I chose to style my look. And this no longer looks like I had to fold it out of necessity. I folded it because this is my personal branding. Now, of course, if I choose to fold and cuff my sleeves, the 2 folds is actually better for somebody who finds the sleeves too long. It allows us to get more material cuffed here. Just make sure that both sleeves are the same length. For somebody who is particular on an interview, back in the day, we would say make sure you shine your shoes. Now you want to make sure that everything that's on camera is finesse. So if that means that you're folding your sleeves before you put it on, just to make sure that both sides are the same length, as a tip, for example, then that's what you'll do before you slide the blazer on. So that, notice here, if I continue the rest of my interview and this is what I look like, for some interviewers, that may be all they see for at least a little while of the interview. And you want that focus on your experience and what makes you qualified for the job instead of focused on your sleeves.
Those are all the questions so far.
Oh, fantastic. Earlier, somebody had asked about owning a lot of clothing. One more tip that I have would be try to narrow down your interview options to pieces that are modern. Now, there's a distinction between modern and trendy. Trendy can be, an example right now is the tie-dye. Tie-dye is very trendy. You'll see it in sweatshirts and you'll see it in blouses. Whereas modern might be opting to not wear a traditional button-up shirt and choosing a blouse that is a pullover that has a round neckline, or it could be choosing a chiffon fabric instead of a classic cotton twill in a shirt. So try to narrow down using modern as just a key word at the back of your mind, and then go from there, because dressing modern is just as important as dressing up. Okay. So now that you have the tools, hopefully all of the tools, we're going to talk about how to turn that into an action plan. So when you're shopping for interviews, you're going to keep in mind that not all stores are good for all products. Maybe that means, as an example, every time you buy a t-shirt from H&M, it shrinks, but you believe that their sweaters are really good staples. Well, that can be true in all sorts of shops. So you don't need to find one store to buy everything in your wardrobe. We go back to the paradox of choice. As you build your wardrobe, don't overbuy. Focus on your key wardrobe staples. Start to build your wardrobe with timeless items that you're going to foresee yourself wearing in 2 to 3 years, rather than chasing the latest trends. Again, trends are great, but trends change 4 times a year, and it becomes a vicious cycle if you're always looking for the latest one. If it's something you enjoy, great. But for those who don't enjoy it, it gives you the time back to spend on the things that you enjoy more. A tip is to always buy items that match each other. So let's say you only own warmer colors. You have some oranges and greens and browns in your wardrobe. If you go to the store and you find a great metallic silver shirt, well, consider that it may not match everything that you own. So now you have to go on the hunt for some black pants, maybe some black shoes. And again, it's a vicious cycle. As you build this wardrobe and you have more and more to choose from, I think it goes back to creating more and more stress that you may not want for the interview process. And last but not least, well, a wardrobe that has 2 blazers and 2 dresses make up 6 outfits. So you don't need to own 6 dresses for 6 looks. You can just keep changing it up. And it doesn't need to be a blazer. In this case, it could be a cardigan. It could be a blouse that you style underneath the dress. If it's something that's short sleeve, a very popular look could be, a turtleneck worn underneath a cap sleeve dress. And just by adding the turtleneck alone, that dress has 2 different looks. So strategically shop so that you own less product. If you keep that in the back of your mind, you also will end up saving a lot of money. Now, each one of us will have different budgets. Like I said, there is no right budget. So I've broken out 4 different buckets, so to say. In our entry level bucket, we have brands and stores where you're going to find items that can start at $5 and they can go up to $20. Of course, there will be items that cost more, just like there will be items that cost less. But your entry level budget stores would be your H&M, your Banana Republic, Factory, J.Crew factory stores. Winners is a good place to find things. Now, depending on what kind of shopper you are, when you go into a space like Winners, you have to have a good idea of what you're looking for, because you don't see a lot of mannequins and models and pictures inside. Whereas going into a H&M store, it may be better and easier to visualize the pieces, because you're seeing tons and tons of mannequins that are changed on a regular basis. In your price conscious bucket, this is where you're going to find pieces that start at $20, going up to maybe $50 for the most part. At the end of this list, you'll see the Bay, which is a multi-brand retailer, often doing very deep discounts, much like a Winners. So the same model applies if you expect and want that more service in store. You may go consider RW & Co. and Uniqlo, where you have lots of models, lots of mannequins, lots of support on the sales floor. And if you already know what you're doing and you're looking to score a great deal, you may choose the Bay, where you have less sales staff on the floor, but lots of sales and lots of product. In our mid price bucket, everything from Zara to Oakenford, this is where you're going to find items that run from the $50 to $100 price points. Now, there will be an argument that you may want to, for example, invest in a blazer from Zara or Aritzia as opposed to Banana Republic Factory or H&M because it may be better quality, but opt to go with H&M for the blouse so that you can build a full outfit picking one item from a higher price point and one item from a lower price point. And then in your premium price bucket, this is where you're going to find items starting at $100. It's not to be confused with the luxury market. And your luxury is where you don't necessarily go for your interview clothing. You're welcome to, but you're talking about a much bigger investment. And here we'll find lots of storied brands that have been carrying professional attire for years and years. At the end of this list is Nordstrom, much like your Winners and the Bay. They are a multi-brand retailer, but given now that we're in a premium price bucket, they'll have a little bit more in the way of stylists and sales staff on the floor to help out with questions about fits and styles and different brands. Okay, so we touched on this one a little bit earlier in the Q&A. Once upon a time, we went into stores and bought things and it was totally different. And then 2020 happened and now we're all online shopping and it's new for a lot of us. So there are 4 key things that I'm going to ask each and every one of us to do during this online shopping period or lockdown period. And these things are just going to help protect yourselves as you go on shopping exclusively online for at least a little bit. The first one is you want to make sure you read the return policy and make sure that you're entitled to a refund. If it's not important to you to get a refund, then of course, that's totally your right. But stores that don't offer a refund policy also then take away from any budget you may have if you end up buying something that you cannot return and cannot wear because it does not fit. Tip number 2 is check that the currency is in Canadian dollars. Now, somewhere on the page, either in the FAQs at the very top right-hand corner or somewhere buried in the bottom of the page, you'll see a currency converter and you can often choose Canadian dollars. Keep in mind though, if you have to change it to Canadian dollars, it may not be an item that's being shipped from Canada. Now that's important because if you're shipping from a non-Canadian retailer, you'll have duties that you may have to pay as soon as it lands at your door. So let's say a Canadian store sells something for $50 and you found a good deal for $40 from a store on the other side of the border. When it arrives, you may have to pay duties and taxes that exceed that initial $50 price point. So just something to be cognizant of. And last but not least, take the time to measure 2 key areas. We talk a lot about wearing blazers in the interview, but even if you don't, you want to know what your bust measurement is and what your sleeve measurement is. And then once you have these 2 measurements, if the store offers some measurement tools, even if it pops up in the side, use those tools because it'll save you a lot of time in the long run, because the whole process of returning something and starting all over isn't necessarily the best strategy or the most time-saving one. So that wraps up the presentation. And we go into Q&A. So I'm open for questions. I'd like to answer as many as you got. So send them my way.
Okay, great. There are a few questions that came through as you were speaking. Monica asks, do you fold blazer sleeves inward or outwards? Like if the inside lining is a different material like silky?
Outward. If you're folding it inward, then you're no longer going to be styling it that way. What ends up happening, I'm going to try to show you guys using, can you see the details here? Perfect. So if you fold inwards, what happens sometimes is you bring the sleeve up to cut off where the buttons and the sleeve opening is. And again, for somebody who is very particular as an interviewer, to see details like this, it would be equivalent to not shining our shoes or not tying our for gentlemen, not tying that knot correctly for a tie. Now, inward would mean that you are showing off the material on the inside. So when you're doing this, make sure that it's clean, it's stain-free. If that can't happen with this particular blazer, maybe choose a different one to wear for the interview, or prepare in advance and make sure it's clean in time for the interview.
With COVID, many of us have gained weight, and interview clothes may not be so comfortable. We may need to buy some new things on a budget. Can you suggest 2 to 4 items that are a must that can kind of fit if you lose or gain weight?
Okay, so I talk about this one a lot because most of my clients at Tiger Sweden are male, and they are 2 entirely different sizes in the winter and the summer. This was before COVID. It's just a thing that happens. So one area that does not change in our body, no matter how much weight we lose or gain, is our shoulder. So make sure what blazers would be the number one. We're going to go through 4 essential items. So the number 1 item is the blazer. Make sure the blazer fits in the sleeve. And if weight fluctuation is something that's a concern, then I would say opt to wear that oversized style. So the blazer fits, everything else is oversized. The oversized look was in style in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 10s, the 20s, the current decade. I don't even know what we call it, the 20s. It's not going anywhere. So if it's a concern, I would say get an oversized blazer as a must. The second item that's on that list is find yourself a great stretch dress. It doesn't need to be a bandage dress. It could be a wrap style. That is the style of dress that ties in the side. It could be something that's made entirely of jersey or a knit fabric. But finding a great dress in your wardrobe will often and stretches will oftentimes be the item that you'll be pairing back to your blazer. The third item on that list is for I've always said this at Dress for Success in the boutique as well, is finding a cream colored or neutral colored top or camisole. I happen to be wearing black right now, but something that's got a clean neckline that you can layer with everything. You can throw any color on top. You can put any weight on top of it. Last but not least, we talked about wearing pants earlier. And as we put on weight or lose weight, find a pair of pants that's got an elasticized waistband or belted in the waistband. What you accomplish there is you'll have something that you're comfortable in, and you're not just adjusting through the whole interview. Or worse, you don't have to unzip or unbutton halfway through the interview. Cassie,
I was on mute. It's like the saying of the year. You're on mute. Okay, the next question is, where was it? What are your recommendations on looking professional in an interview when you've gone all gray in your hair? I'm asking in terms of like colors that are complementary.
I missed the first part of the question, but was that if you're going gray, what should you wear?
Yeah, like what colors would you recommend to look professional?
So I would say it is a combination of 2 different things. So if you're going gray and you have a lighter complexion, then choose darker colors, rich colors, navies, burgundies, forest greens, all would be really good colors to add some pop. On the opposite side, if you have a really dark complexion and you're going gray, the contrast there would be your light colors, a winter white, crisp white, even if you are going to offset that with a warm color like a nice brown or a caramel, or a really big color this season is the cognac. All of these tones will help add some color.
Okay, great. Next question is, I look really young for my age. Me too. What style do you recommend for someone to look younger than they are? I don't know if you want to be older or younger. I don't really know. Cindy, if you could clarify.
Okay, well, how about if we're in a position where we want to look more mature? One of those things is, if we want to look more mature, definitely choose to dress up. So if normally dressing up for you, if everyday life is t-shirt and jeans, and if normal dressing up is finding a great blouse, then maybe the next step for dressing up is finding a great blazer that pairs back to that blouse in colors that are more conservative. Conservative colors would be your navies, your blacks, and your charcoals. If you're going with, let's say, a very vibrant top, that will help balance it out, and it makes the statement a little bit more appropriate for maybe a more conservative audience. If you are in a category where you want to look younger, well, this is where you introduce those vibrant colors. So maybe your go-to blouse is black. Then when you want to introduce a blazer, you're going to go for a canary, like a canary yellow, some oranges, a nice green, vibrant blue instead of a navy blue. So it all depends which side you're on and which side you want to go to. If you want to look younger, choose brighter, more vibrant colors. If you want to look older, choose more conservative and classic colors. Does that help?
Yeah, perfect. Okay. What are your thoughts on jewelry during interviews? How flashy can you go?
Well, jewelry is going to be a statement of your personal style. So you can absolutely pick something that is loud and flashy. But if you choose to do that, let's use a necklace as an example. You won't choose the necklace that is red and orange and purple in all of its beads. You may choose a necklace that has one pendant that has all those colors. Again, this is just a logistic, for logistic reasons. As you, let's say, touch your chest and it makes a lot of noise, that can be distracting on the interview.
Okay. I think that's all the questions so far. If anyone else has any that they want to add, if you want to also come off mute, if you have a longer winded question, feel free to do that as well.
Oh, hey, Cassie, it's Monica.
Hello.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Monica. Hi.
I was just curious, do you have any thoughts on figuring out how to figure out what your best interview outfit is? Because I personally struggle with, I have a lot of options and I kind of tend to go very simple in my interviews because I feel more comfortable. So like I'll generally do like a black blazer and then I'll do like a soft pink shirt that's like I feel like it looks good, and at least in my mind I feel like it looks clean and uncluttered.
Okay.
Like, what do you have any like strategy in terms of how the heck do you figure out what your best interview outfit is? Or maybe it's a case of trying on a bunch of stuff and then showing your family and they kind of maybe help you figure out what they think looks best.
I think first and foremost, I do believe that the opinion of our family and friends and those who love us, I think they're very valuable input. But I think the more important one is you have to feel good in the outfit. So if that means you're trying on multiple outfits, then you're trying on multiple outfits. But once you find the right outfit, so for me, I come from the fashion world. So let's say tomorrow I go out interviewing. I know my outfit. I'm in a pleated pant that's belted, paired back to a pleated black pant that's belted, paired back to a black camisole, and I'm wearing a black leather jacket. This is my I look at it almost like this is my war outfit. This is the one I'm going to kill it in. And no matter what interview I'm going to, it's the one I feel best in. So it's going to be my first outfit. It's not to say it's the right outfit for every single person. If Monica, you feel best in your black blazer and pink blouse, and it's the one you feel the best in, make that your first interview outfit. It's going to make getting ready that much easier. You already know how you want to wear your hair and how you'll want to wear your makeup to complement that look.
Yeah, I feel like it looks good because I've gone all gray, and I feel like the pink matches with my skin tone because I'm like, my background, I'm East Indian, but I'm kind of a little bit, I'm like slightly on the lighter side in terms of skin coloring. So I'm kind of in between. So maybe something sort of close to your skin tone, like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, like not necessarily like very dark, but not necessarily like Caucasian skin color. So I'm
Got
sort
it.
of like in a weird place like that. Like I have color, but then when I go on camera, I feel like it doesn't show, it shows some, but not 100%. So it's kind of like I'm in a weird place. So that's why I was asking about the colors that would be smart or whatever. So which you already mentioned. So thanks for that.
Something that I think would be really good, if you have a similar complexion as I do, a soft blush color, especially next to a window that may, take away some of that lighting, or the contrast may not be good. Try to introduce some burgundies. Burgundy is a color that's trans-seasonal, so it'll look just as good in the summer as it does in the middle of the winter. And burgundies will contrast your blacks really well, and I think will work with your complexion. And if you've gone gray, you'll add some more color back into the whole ensemble.
Oh, so you're saying burgundy in terms of the jacket or the blouse?
Either or. If you want to stick with a black blazer, then a burgundy blouse. If you're going to go with a burgundy blazer, then you would go for a black or a black, navy, or cream or white colored blouse.
Okay. I don't know if I have a burgundy blazer, but I know I have a burgundy blouse from Esprit, but it's kind of a sexy one. But I mean, if I put it over a jacket, nobody would be able to tell. So
Yeah.
it's on a kind of like on a bit of a diagonal. So I have to check how much chest is showing, because if it's too much, then then I have to go shopping.
Something that would make for something that we don't talk about often is a lot of the tops that we own for layering with a blazer are often sleeveless. So a neat trick, it doesn't work for every blouse, but a neat trick is if you flip the blouse the other way around, you can then introduce something that often has a very clean crew cut, crew neckline. And maybe that might be an option for the interview.
Sorry, my dog's barking.
Okay.
Sorry, I just yelled at her.
No worries.
I'm not sure because that top, I think it's cut on a diagonal. So I don't know
Oh, okay.
if it'll work for that one, but that's a great tip for in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know personally, I have I wear a lot of black, so I have a lot of tops that maybe are really revealing in the front, but I like the weight, I like the sheen, or I like the drape in something. Then I may decide to snip that tag and flip it the other way around. And it isn't just for the virtual interview. I'll have you know, I've worn that plenty. I'll wear that at a function that's in real life too.
Well, thanks for the burgundy tip. I'm kind of excited. I noticed when I was younger, I used to buy burgundy pieces, and I used to have this one like blood red burgundy type sweater. It was actually from the 70s. It was my mom's. And I loved it. Like I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I wore it to death. And you're right, the coloring looked really. It brought out my skin. It made me look very. I looked super fair in that sweater. So thanks for that tip.
You're very welcome. Sometimes what we don't realize is we have certain pieces in our wardrobe that we gravitate to, but we don't know how to articulate why we like it so much. And it's because somewhere subconsciously we understand that that's the right item for us. And it could very well mean that it's not the right item to somebody who is like a mother or a sister because they have a different body type. Sometimes we just stumble upon the best things. We don't know why it's the best. But in those scenarios, trust your gut. You know, if you know that you've had this piece that you used to wear all the time and you stopped wearing, and you maybe it's not in your wardrobe anymore. Try to find and isolate those things that made that top or that dress or that blazer special, and try to find stuff in today's market that will bring back some of those things that you loved.
Okay, the next question, very good question. What months are the best to find clearance prices for each season? So winter, is it end of Jan? Is it mid-Jan? And then for fall, spring, and summer?
Oh, fantastic. I have 15 years of experience to tell you the answer here. So typically what happens is in Canada, we introduce the spring season in February, which means all those weeks leading up to the new arrival of spring will be your deepest discounts. We introduce fall merchandise in August. So typically starting in June right through to the beginning of August, you'll see deep discounts on spring summer goods. There's 2 additional windows. Black Friday has become a big player, maybe only for the past 5 to 7 years in Canada. You'll start to see your first break in sale for all fall merchandise. First break in sale meaning these are the first times you're going to see a significant discount on the collection. It's not the biggest discount though, it's the first. So you go Black Friday and then you move into Boxing Week. And then right after Boxing Week, that's when you start to see those signs that go from, let's say, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80% off. You're going to see those in January. Now, right now we're in a pandemic. You've been seeing signs that say 30, 40, all the way to 70% off all year round. And there will be different businesses that work off of a different calendar. Zara is a good example because Zara owns their supply chain, so they can introduce a different sales season unique to their brand.
Okay, I'm just trying to write this down. Can you repeat the dates for fall and winter discount times?
Yes. So in the fall, the first time retailers will introduce a deep discount will be the Black Friday week. And then after Black Friday, you'll see a second crop of sales or more sales come up around Boxing Week, which starts on Boxing Day, December 26th. And then just when you think the sales are over, we'll see steeper discounts in January all the way until February when the new spring arrivals show up.
I wrote it in the chat.
Okay.
Just so everyone knows. Okay. The next question is, can you, for interviews, kind of, how can you dress up for interviews so you're not judged from where you come from or your religion?
First and foremost, as we interview for positions, largely in the Canadian space, we already live in a country that's very multicultural. So let's say anything from headdress to traditional garments, it's okay if that's what you're wearing. Nobody typically has a hard time, or nobody should feel like they're having a hard time being who they are, especially since I think certain garments are compulsory in dress. But maybe what I would say is incorporate that into the look. So if, let's say we're talking about scarves, for example, make sure that the colors in the scarves complement the colors in the shirt. And if that's not the case, then change either one so the two complement each other. Was that the question? How to address it?
let us know if you want us to further explain. But we'll move on for now. If you are wearing a blazer or trousers, how should you keep your hair? If you want to look professional, should I tie my hair back or leave it open? And there's another question that kind of goes into it, of recommending kind of headbands and kind of more like hair pieces, especially if you're trying to hide a bad haircut. But what do you do if you recommend headbands or anything else? How should you do your hair?
So I'm going to go back to the same rule that applies for our dress. Pick items that are going to be simple and elegant and timeless. So if there is a headband and the headband itself is tie-dye, going back to the trend, that's not going to be something that I would say falls into the timeless or classic category. Instead, I may say, if you're going for a younger, more vibrant look, then pick some bright colors that complement your hair color. If you want to go with something that's more conservative or you want to look older and you're adding a headband, then choose something that is a black or a brown or something that is super conservative. It's okay to wear your hair up. It's okay to wear your hair down. I don't think there's any rule or suggestion that says one is better than the other. So if you feel most confident with your hair up, then wear your hair up. If you think you look better with your hair down, then wear it down.
I have a question. Since like we're talking about hair, like sometimes I wear it in a braid. Do you think it will be appropriate for an interview, or like should I just like wear it in a headband when I go to interviews?
You can absolutely wear your hair in a braid. You can wear your hair in a braid or multiple braids. I would say, if you make sure that your hair is styled, that's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You probably just don't want the braid that maybe you slept in, right? So you maybe want to redo it if that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question is, we talked a little bit about Reitman's, but is Reitman's and Joe Fresh good places to go for interview pieces?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Both. Joe Fresh just happens to be a store that I had forgotten about, but has some really good basics. What you'll notice from that list I had created are brands that I have personally shopped and have worked with, and know a number of people who come from these spaces. But Reitman's and Joe Fresh are both great places to go, as both inspiration and resources, as they are places to shop. Joe Fresh would fall into the entry level bucket, and Reitman, I believe we had seen in the price conscious bucket.
Okay. Next question. Considering what's happening in the world, will stores be ordering less merchandise for the next season, and will it be harder to find items and sizes on sale later on?
So the first part of the question is, yes, stores work on stores build budgets to see how much room allotted they have to buy in more inventory. It's based on what's sold through in the past. Sorry, that is my...
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I didn't know the AirPods weren't built for an hour. Okay, so we were talking about, oh my gosh, refresh my memory.
Let me go back to it. Yes, ordering
sorry.
merchandise for the next season.
So yes, they'll have a smaller budget to be buying new inventory. But if they have a smaller budget to buy new inventory, it's because they're sitting on a lot of existing inventory. And going back to the point that interview clothing, which is different than work clothing, should be timeless. So whether it was produced this year, last year, or 5 years ago, it shouldn't make a difference. In fact, if it's sat at the store for a longer window, chances are the discount USC will be steeper. It actually works to your benefit in this scenario.
Mhm. Okay. Oh, this question I knew was going to come. How about makeup? How should you wear your makeup for interviews? We knew this question was going to come up.
That's great. So for makeup, it depends on what you are most comfortable with. So for example, I don't wear a lot of eyeshadow. So for an interview, I'm not going to choose to go and put a lot of eyeshadow in, because it may make me feel the most unnatural. Maybe that amount of makeup on my eye would be foreign. Maybe I'll have an allergic reaction. I don't want that discovery mid-interview. I'm going to choose what I wear most often, which in my case is mascara, eyeliner, and lipstick. And that's going to be different for each person. It is perfectly acceptable to wear minimal makeup. I don't say often that we wear no makeup to the interview, again, because we're trying to put on our best foot forward. So maybe that's just a color foundation to even our complexion. Maybe that's finishing I fill in my eyebrows. So maybe it's making sure that we're our most polished self. It's going to be different for everybody. So I don't know that there's one answer, but I would suggest not introducing something brand new unless it's something that you've done multiple times for unless it's a regimen that you've already introduced a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my makeup routine is I fill in my eyebrows, I put on some mascara and eyeliner, and I put on red lipstick. It's kind of my signature.
My signature look. Yeah, it depends. Like right now I just filled in my eyebrows and I'm wearing blush. I even put mascara on and I'm wearing lip chap. So it really just depends on kind of how you feel comfortable. I feel like I'm in person, I wear a little bit more, but
that's actually the perfect example, because let's say Cassie's idol calls her and says, "Hey, can you do a Zoom interview with me right now?" All she has to do to dress up what she has on this very moment is just finding a good blazer, maybe just reapply her chapstick so it's even, and she's flawless. She's good to go. It doesn't need to be putting on our makeup doesn't need to be a huge production, not for an interview, in person, or virtually.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The next question, which is a very funny question because I know the answer to this, is wondering about sizing. Is there a standard size among stores?
I wish. If I had one wish for this industry, is to come up with what a standard extra small through triple XL would be. And then everything would map to this one scale, but it doesn't exist. It doesn't, not at all. Sizing in Asia is different than sizing in Europe, which is different than sizing in North America. What is important to remember, though, is oftentimes, let's say H&M is your go-to shop. Oftentimes, if you're a size 8 at H&M, then you're a size 8 throughout H&M. But there won't be any kind of correlation with a size 8 at Monaco or size 8 at Tiger Sweden.
Mm-hmm. I wish, yeah. We all wish for that. There was one more question. Do you recommend getting a ring light or some type of lighting?
So a ring light, there's nothing wrong with a ring light. One thing to be cognizant of, and you'll see this in a lot of videos on social media, is that if you wear glasses, the ring from the light shows up like this. And it's very distracting. So instead of a ring light, maybe a light that's got more consistent light, or if you can put, there's always tips and tricks, but if you can put a film of wax paper or even bed sheets, something that helps disperse and distribute the light would be a good trick.
Mm-hmm. Gotta be careful when you have glasses.
Yeah.
Karen brings up a good point about within Zoom on your video settings, there is actually a little thing, like it's a little option that says touch up my appearance. It's almost like a beauty filter, but it just kind of like smooths everything out. So if you're on Zoom, you can use that.
Oh my gosh, yes. And most interviews, I want to say right now, are happening on Zoom. Zoom is one of the is currently the #1 platform for hosting virtual interviews. I think I read that the end of last year, and I don't think much has changed.
Oh, Zoom all day. I'm like Teams maybe, but I think Zoom's more popular than Teams. Okay, there's one last question about the makeup. If I'm not wearing any makeup other than moisturizer, and if I'm totally comfortable and presentable, will it be considered as though I didn't spend time to get ready for the interview from the interviewer's perspective?
No, not at all. If you feel that your best look is that without makeup, then that's perfectly acceptable.